At the family beach vacation, my mother-in-law announced, "This house is for real family only." Husband agreed. "Honey, just go home." I smiled and called security. "Please escort them out of my resort." Their faces when they saw my name on every building. And I had plans for their special day. At our annual family beach vacation, my mother-in-law declared that the house was reserved for real family only. My husband immediately agreed, saying, "Honey, just go home." I couldn't help but smile as I texted security, "Please escort them out of my resort." Their faces must have fallen when they saw my name on every building. And I had big plans for their special day. That same text arrived while I was reviewing quarterly reports for my resort chain. "Remember to pack casual clothes for the beach house this weekend. Nothing fancy, just family." Her message dripped with the usual condescension. If only she knew that I was Sarah Chin, 34, owner of the Sapphire Bay Resort Group. Instead, my in-laws believed I was simply Michael's wife working in hospitality. I never corrected them. Let them think I was just a hotel receptionist if they wanted. The truth is, I built my company from the ground up, turning a struggling beachfront property into a luxury resort empire over the past 10 years. I met Michael at a hotel management conference. I was already successful but preferred to keep a low profile. Michael worked in marketing at a mid-sized firm, charming, kind, and seemingly different from his status-obsessed family. We fell in love and I chose to keep my real role under wraps so they get to know me for who I was, not for what I owned. Although Michael agreed, I sometimes caught him squirming when his family made snide remarks about my little job. Every year, this vacation was a power play for my mother-in-law, Regina. She would rent the priciest house at Sapphire Bay, my flagship resort, and spend the week reminding everyone that she was treating the family to luxury. The irony? She was actually paying me for that privilege, a fact that amused me privately for 5 years. But this year was different. 2 months ago, I overheard Regina and my sister-in-law, Amanda, plotting during a family dinner. Regina whispered, "It's time Michael traded up. Jessica from his office would be perfect. Her father owns half of downtown. Sweet, but she's just not our caliber." This beach trip was their chance to show Michael the difference between class and, well, their own shallow ideas. Quietly, I slipped away as my hand found the resort key card in my pocket. The master key with my name and title emblazoned on it. Maybe it was time for a different kind of vacation. On Friday afternoon, I arrived at the beach house ahead of everyone, using my private access road. The staff, who knew exactly who I was yet were trained in discretion, had everything set up to my specifications. I changed into a simple sundress, the kind Regina would dismiss as cheap, and waited. Soon they arrived in a convoy of luxury cars, Regina leading in her Mercedes SUV. Michael greeted me with a kiss while his mother inspected the house with her usual proprietorial air. Amanda trailed behind with her husband Tom and the newest member of their group, Jessica from Michael's office, sporting a designer swimsuit that likely cost more than Regina made in a month. "Sarah dear," Regina said in a saccharine tone, "help Maria with the luggage, won't you?" She gestured to the housekeeper struggling with several expensive bags. I smiled. "Actually, Maria can take the afternoon off. I've arranged butler service for the house." Regina's eyes narrowed. "And who's paying for that?" "Oh, don't worry," I replied calmly. "It's already taken care of." The rest of the afternoon went according to Regina's script. Jessica sat next to Michael at every turn, while I was relegated to the far end of the group. I noticed my husband's growing disappointment, yet he said nothing. Later that evening on the terrace during dinner, Regina announced, "Sarah dear, could you check why the air conditioning isn't working in the east wing?" I set down my wine glass and offered, "I can call maintenance." No, Regina interrupted. "You work in hospitality, you know how to handle these little issues. Jessica, why don't you tell Michael more about your father's new development project?" At that moment my phone buzzed with a familiar alert, a nightly report from my resort security team. I excused myself quietly, only Maria noticed, and slipped into the house through a side window. From there I could see Jessica touching Michael's arm and laughing at something he said, while my husband beamed with attention. The security report even included footage from the beach house. I watched as Regina and Amanda were seen in the kitchen earlier, spiking my water glass with what looked like a liquid laxative. How original. I quickly texted my head of security. "Proceed with Protocol 17. Returning to the terrace, I found Regina holding court. "Really, Sarah, I don't know why you insist on wearing that Target dress to dinner. We have standards here, right?" Michael shifted uncomfortably but remained silent, while Jessica smirked behind her wine glass. "Speaking of standards," Regina continued, "I've been thinking this house isn't big enough for everyone. Sarah dear, maybe you'd be more comfortable at one of those budget hotels in town. After all, this is a family gathering." I glanced at Michael, waiting for him to defend me. Instead, he just stared at his plate. "Honey, Mom has a point. It is getting crowded and you might be more comfortable." Before he could finish, the terrace doors burst open. My head of security entered with 2 other officers. "Mrs. Chun," he addressed me formally. "Is everything all right?" Regina stood outraged. "Who are you? How dare you interrupt our family dinner? I smiled as I reached into my purse for my master keycard and ID badge. Actually, Regina, I need to handle this as the owner and CEO of Sapphire Bay Resorts. I'm afraid I have to inform you that your reservation is cancelled. The silence was absolute. Michael's fork clattered against his plate. Owner? Regina whispered in disbelief. Yes, I replied calmly. Owner of this resort and the entire chain. All 17 properties, in fact. And since you violated multiple terms of your rental agreement, attempting, for instance, to poison another guest, I'm exercising my right to terminate your stay. But, Amanda sputtered, you're just a hotel clerk. That's exactly what you choose to believe, I said. It suited your prejudices. I've owned this resort chain for 12 years. I let you treat me like help to see who you really were. Congratulations, you've shown me exactly that. I turned to Michael, who stared at me as if he'd never seen me before. Michael, I'm disappointed but not surprised by your behavior. You'll be hearing from my lawyer about divorce proceedings. Then I looked at Jessica. And you might want to update your resume. I just bought a controlling interest in your father's company, and your position is eliminated in tomorrow's restructuring. Regina finally found her voice. You can't do this, we have a contract. The contract you never bother to read, the one that gives me the right to evict guests for cause. John, please escort everyone out. Their belongings will be sent to whatever accommodations they can find in town. And a word of warning. I own all the luxury properties within a 50-mile radius. You might have better luck at Motel 6. Enough. You've been lying to us for years. Regina shrieked as security began clearing the terrace. No, Regina, I said softly. I simply let you reveal who you truly are. You never cared to ask what I actually do or show any interest in my work or my life. You were too busy trying to replace me with someone you thought was more suitable for your social status. I watched as they were escorted to their cars, Regina protesting, Amanda in tears, Jessica desperately trying to make calls, and Michael lingering silently. Sarah, I didn't know that was the problem, Michael finally stammered. Michael, you didn't want to know, I replied. You were so busy keeping your mother happy that you never stood up for your wife. Good luck with the divorce. And don't worry about a settlement. I've already transferred enough funds to your account to buy a small condo. Maybe your mother will let you live in her pool house. As their cars disappeared down the private drive, I turned to Maria, who was watching with wide eyes. Maria, I'd like to offer you a new position as head of housekeeping services for the resort, with full benefits and triple your current salary. The woman burst into tears of joy and hugged me tightly. Thank you, Mrs. Chun. I can't believe you finally stood up to them after all these years. I smiled as I watched the sunset over my resort. Sometimes, Maria, the best revenge is simply letting people show you who they really are. Now, shall we discuss your new duties over dinner? I believe we have a lovely meal going to waste. 3 days later, a video went viral. Someone, probably one of the kitchen staff, had recorded Regina's meltdown as security escorted her off my property. The clip, capturing her screaming, "But we're family," while being led to her Mercedes, racked up millions of views. Social media exploded with the beach house boss lady saga, especially when someone unearthed Regina's old Facebook post boasting about treating the family to luxury vacations at Sapphire Bay. I watched the fallout from my private suite in the resort's penthouse, sipping coffee and reviewing acquisition proposals. My phone had not stopped buzzing since that night. Calls from Regina, Michael, their friends, even country club associates. I blocked them all. The only call I took was from Jessica's father. Mrs. Chun, he said in a carefully controlled tone, I believe we need to discuss the recent changes in company ownership. Mr. Bradford, I agree, particularly regarding your daughter's involvement in trying to break up my marriage. I'm sure the board would love to see those text messages between her and my mother-in-law plotting to seduce my husband during a company event. His silence was delicious. Now, about that merger with the Henderson Group. You know I'm prepared to make it happen, provided Jessica is relocated to your Singapore office immediately. That can be arranged. Wonderful. My lawyers will be in touch. The divorce proceedings moved quickly. Michael's lawyer nearly choked when he saw my financial disclosures. The very details Regina dismissed as unimportant for someone in my position proved invaluable. Michael got exactly what we'd agreed upon. A modest fresh start and nothing more. Regina's attempts at damage control backfired spectacularly. Her tearful interview with a local news station, in which she claimed to have been blindsided by her daughter-in-law's deception, prompted my PR team to release security footage of her trying to spike my drink. The resulting headlines weren't kind. Mother-in-law poisoning attempt exposed. Beach house drama continues. Amanda then showed up unannounced at my corporate office pleading, Ed, Sarah, please, mom's a wreck. The country club is freezing her out, and her charity board wants her to step down. Can't you make this all go away? I looked up from my laptop where I'd been reviewing plans for my newest resort acquisition, the very property Regina had bragged about booking for next year's family vacation. Make what go away, Amanda? The consequences of your actions, the truth about how you all treated me, or just the public embarrassment of being exposed? You never needed to know who I really was. That's exactly the point. You shouldn't have to know someone's net worth to treat them with basic respect. I turned my screen to show her the property listing. By the way, I just bought the Vista Del Mar Resort. Your mother might want to find a new venue for her annual I'm better than you vacation. And the fallout rippled through their social circles. Amid Regina's carefully crafted image as the family matriarch, everything began to unravel. The very women who once sneered at her subtle digs about my modest background were now whispering behind their designer handbags. The irony of them gossiping in one of my hotels wasn't lost on me. Michael made one feeble attempt at reconciliation. He showed up at my corporate office in the suit he'd bought for our wedding. "I miss you," he said, standing awkwardly before my desk. I replied evenly, "I was wrong. I should have stood up to them." "Yes, you should have," he murmured, though he never did over the past 5 years. "I didn't know you owned all this," he admitted. If I had known, he claimed, then he'd have treated me with the respect that comes from wealth. "I thought being your husband was enough," he added, leaving with slumped shoulders, finally grasping what he had lost. Not my money, thanks to a prenup, but my trust, my respect, and any hope of a future together. 6 months after the beach house debacle, I hosted a charity gala at my flagship resort that raised millions for educational scholarships for hospitality workers. Maria, now head of housekeeping, delivered a moving speech on opportunity and second chances. Regina even tried to buy a ticket, only to have her payment refunded with a note, "We reserve the right to refuse service." Media coverage exploded. Business magazines that once dismissed me as merely lucky now praised my strategic brilliance in building an empire. One renowned business journal even asked to profile me for their Women in Leadership issue. Reflecting on it later, I told the interviewer that I was almost grateful for how I was treated. It taught me valuable lessons about character, and about how people behave when they think you're beneath them. I've woven those lessons into my company culture, ensuring that every employee, from dishwasher to executive, is treated with equal respect. The article went viral and applications to work at my resorts tripled. I also instituted a new hiring policy. Any hint of elitism during an interview is an automatic disqualification. 1 year after that fateful beach house weekend, I received an invitation to Michael and Jessica's engagement party. Apparently Jessica had returned from Singapore and reconnected with Michael. The venue? One of my competitor hotels, the only luxury property in the area that wasn't mine. I sent a gift, a framed copy of the rental agreement from that infamous weekend, with the behavior-based eviction clause highlighted. My note read, "Congratulations. May your new family treat each other better than your last one treated me." I later learned that Regina had sold her beach house, the one she'd spent years renovating to match the Sapphire Bay aesthetic, to a buyer arranged through a shell corporation. My company bought it and converted it into a retreat center for overworked hospitality employees. The transformation of my business continued. Sapphire Bay Resorts became known for more than luxury. We were celebrated for our corporate culture, our high employee retention, and our zero-tolerance policy toward guest harassment. Maria's daughter even became our first scholarship recipient, a full ride to Cornell's hotel management program. And when Regina's friends complained about declining service standards after I introduced progressive policies, I revoked their memberships in our loyalty program. The final twist came during a routine business acquisition 2 years later. I was reviewing the purchase of a small but exclusive country club, the very one where Regina had ruled for decades, when my assistant, Mrs. Chun, noted, "There's one detail you should know. Mrs. Regina Wallace holds a lifetime membership." I smiled, recalling years of condescension and being treated like one of the staff while watching my husband fail to defend me. I instructed, "Please inform Mrs. Wallace that under new ownership, all memberships are subject to review." Her presence would make other members uncomfortable. I even echoed her own words from that beach house dinner. That same day, the letter terminating her membership was delivered, just as she received an invitation to Michael and Jessica's wedding in a budget hotel ballroom. Apparently, Jessica's father's new Singapore-based position had affected their circumstances more than expected. I donated Regina's membership fees to our scholarship fund, with the first award going to Maria's youngest daughter, who always dreamed of owning her own hotel someday. Sometimes, as I sit in my penthouse office overlooking the ocean, I think back to that last family dinner at the beach house. The shock on their faces when they finally realized that the person they dismissed all along held the power. Real power, I've learned, isn't about wealth or status. It's about being true to yourself, treating everyone with dignity no matter their position, and never letting anyone else define your worth. Regina still drives by the resort. I've seen her car slow at the gates, her eyes fixed on the sign with my name. I wonder if she now understands that her biggest mistake wasn't underestimating my wealth. It was underestimating my worth. The beach house where it all ended has become my favorite private retreat. I even kept one memento from that final dinner, the wine glass Regina tried to spike. It now sits in a display case in my office, a constant reminder that success isn't just about making money. It's about preserving your dignity while letting others reveal their true character. Last week, I received a letter from Michael. Inside was an invitation to his and Jessica's wedding, along with a handwritten note. I know you won't come, but I wanted you to see what rock bottom looks like. You were right about everything. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. I replied on Sapphire Bay letterhead. Congratulations. I've booked you the honeymoon suite at our Singapore property. Consider it my wedding gift and a reminder that class has nothing to do with money. Of course, the suite doesn't actually exist, but I'm sure they'll figure that out eventually. After all, some lessons are best learned the hard way.